The Business and Property Court of England and Wales, sitting in London, is set to deliver judgment any moment now in the case filed by Nigeria, seeking the dismissal of an $11 billion arbitration award in favor of Process and Industrial Development Limited. Arise international correspondent Adefemi Akinsanya is outside the Rolls Building Court in London. Adefemi, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday. Can you bring us up to speed on what's happening where you are at the moment?
Temi Tokpe, you have come to me at a fantastic time. I have just received the email, so forgive me while I look at my phone and read this judgment out. It has just come through. You'll be well aware from listening to John Cookson's thorough package there what the stakes are. Some $11.4 billion are on the line here, and the judgment has just come through. The judgment itself did happen behind closed doors. The court is clearly behind me, is open today, but this specific hearing for this judgment did happen remotely, and the judgment has just been sent through via email. I will be sending it into the office so they can help us with the graphics. It is clearly a long process. It's 140 pages, so you'll forgive me if it takes a second for me to get down to the bottom line of the nitty-gritty here. But if we're setting up this detail, we know that as it stands, back in 2017, Nigeria already received some sort of negative news as it pertains to this case. They were ordered to pay some $6.6 billion to the proprietors of P&ID, money that Nigeria refused to pay and instead went ahead and continued on its appeals process, which is what has brought us to this point here today. However, that time between 2017 and clearly 2023 October has allowed for interest to accrue. So that fee has ballooned from $6.6 billion to $11.4 billion. So there is a lot of money at stake here. And you can imagine how both sides are eagerly anticipating what has been happening here. So I urge you to give me a few moments to send this into you at Lagos, but also find out what the final hearings are. As I said, it's 140 pages long, clearly a detailed and documented and thorough programming. But if you would, just give me a few moments so I can get to the spark notes of it so I can tell you what has just happened.
We're wondering what could come of this judgment. You did say it's a lot of money on the line. It has been taking quite a while with the back and forth. We are waiting for Adefemi Akinsanya, our correspondent out of London, to get back with us for the final judgment that has just been released in this historic landmark case between P&ID and
Article
the
574, if we're looking at the conclusion, and Article 574, it does read, in the circumstances of the reasons I have sought to describe and explain, Nigeria succeeds on its challenge under Section 68. I have not accepted all of Nigeria's allegations, but the awards were obtained by fraud, and the awards were, and in the way in which they were procured, was contrary to public policy. What has happened in this case is very serious indeed, and is important that Section 68 has been available to maintain the rule of law. Just to repeat what I've just read out to you, if we're looking at Article 574 in this conclusion, it reads, in the circumstances and for the reasons I've sought to describe and explain in these 140 pages, Nigeria succeeds on its challenge under Section 68. I have not accepted, the judgment says, all of Nigeria's allegations, but the awards were obtained by fraud, and the awards were, and the way in which they were procured was contrary to public policy. So I want to be steadfast in sharing this information, but from this article it does appear that Nigeria have come out victorious in this process. We are, from what I've just heard, on a page where it does seem to be an admission that Nigeria's points that this deal was made under bad faith, was made under conditions of corruption. It does seem that the court has agreed and sided with Nigeria, and this $11.4 billion payment as it stands may not have to be paid. As I've said, I have sent this over to you in Lagos, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to get the SparkNotes version out to you. This is all happening very, very quickly, but it does appear that in Nigeria versus P&ID, in the judgment, Nigeria have been victorious in the sense that the court does say it agrees with Nigeria and that the allegations Not all of them have been agreed by the courts, but what is vehemently important is that the court have in fact agreed that the awards were obtained by fraud, and the awards were, and in the way that they were procured, contrary to public policy. Temi Tokpe and Hawa.
Well, Adefemi, thank you so much for that. But I'm curious, so what happens next?
Well, this is very interesting now, because we're going to have to anticipate some sort of comment publicly by the Nigerian government and or the parties from P&ID. You're just seeing these gentlemen leaving the court. It's unclear what court case that they have participated in or whether or not they are relevant to the court that we are focused on right now. But we are expecting some form of reaction by both parties, be it the Nigerian government or the representatives of P&ID, whether or not they will accept this judgment coming down from the court, and whether or not we will see another instance of denial or another appeals process. It's far too early to tell, but what we do know is that for what it appears, Nigeria is on the winning side this time.
Well, Adefemi, it's certainly a sigh of relief for some on this side. I'm wondering if the legal minds who were very well versed in this case were expecting this kind of result from the information and the facts that were presented within the case.
I mean, clearly, we know that back in 2017, the decision did not go in the Nigerian government's favor. They were made and ordered to pay $6.6 billion, a whopping amount, and Nigeria never accepted that it was going to pay that money and continued on this appeals process. And clearly, from what we've been seeing over this legal process, the Nigerian government did have merit. They were able to prove through bank transfers, through different types of documents, to show that there was some unsavory and unscrupulous behavior happening between certain members of the Nigerian government and representatives of P&ID. And as I've just heard and read in this judgment, the court does agree that some of those deals were in fact fraudulent, were founded in corruption, but the court has made clear that it has not agreed with Nigeria on every allegation it's made as it pertains to the behavior between certain members of the Nigerian government, but most importantly P&ID. Now, P&ID have said for years that they have been duped by the Nigerian government, which is why they set about this entire legal process. And they did have the upper hand back in 2017, but it appears in 2023 Nigeria were able to put together a clear and thorough case that in some aspects, the most important aspects, the court has agreed with.
Well, Adefemi Akinsanya, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.